When I got sick and asked for a sick day, my manager sent back, "Unless you're dying, get in here." When I arrived, pale and shaking, he sneered, "Oh look, the company mascot for pathetic." I sat down and whispered, "Thank you for showing me what you think of me." 2 weeks later, he got an email that made his face drain of color. "I've worked at the same insurance company in Fort Wayne, Indiana for 9 years. I started right out of community college, and in all those years, I hardly ever called in sick. Maybe twice. I was one of those employees they call reliable. Always 10 minutes early, stayed late when needed, never complained when deadlines got pushed up or when other people slacked off and I had to pick up the pieces. That kind of thing. I wasn't gunning for a promotion or anything big. I just wanted to do a good job, get my paycheck, and go home. My wife and I were raising 2 kids, and between school activities and her part-time job at the library, we were just trying to keep things steady. Things started to change when we got a new manager, Derek. He transferred in from some Chicago branch and he walked around like he owned the whole building. Wore these shiny shoes, talked loud so everyone could hear, and kept trying to shake things up. He gave these speeches about productivity and breaking the mold, but all he really did was micromanage and cut corners. He made changes that only helped him look good to upper management while dumping more work on us. Derek didn't like me. Maybe because I was older than him, maybe because I didn't kiss up. Maybe because I asked too many questions in meetings. I'm not sure. But over time, it became clear he had it out for me. He once jokingly said, "If I had a nickel for every time you acted like you were better than this job, I'd be able to fire you and replace you with a bot." I let it go. Figured if I just kept my head down, I'd be fine. Then in January I got sick. Real sick. I don't know if it was the flu or some nasty virus, but I was pale, sweating, dizzy, and couldn't keep food down. I hadn't felt that bad in years. I texted Derek early that morning and said I needed a sick day. I even apologized for the late notice. He replied within 5 minutes. "Unless you're dying, get in here. We have reports due and I don't care if you have to puke in a trash can, show up." I stared at the screen hoping it was a joke. But no, that was Derek. Classic Derek. I thought about calling HR, but I'd seen what happened when others tried. He always found a way to make them look like the problem. So I dragged myself in. Took a cab because I was too dizzy to drive. Sat in my cubicle, pale as a ghost, barely able to sit upright. I was shaking. Couldn't even look at the monitor without the screen swimming. Derek walked by, stopped at my desk, gave me one of those smug looks and said, "Oh look, the company mascot for pathetic." I looked up at him. Didn't say anything for a second. Then I whispered, "Thank you for showing me what you think of me." He smirked and walked away. That day stuck in my head. The cruelty of it. Not just the words but the way he said them, like I was less than human. I went home that night and sat on the edge of my bed, head pounding, and told my wife what happened. She was furious. She told me it wasn't right. I agreed. But what could I do? At first, I was just going to look for another job. Quietly quit. Maybe move somewhere else. But the more I thought about it, the more I realized something. I wasn't the only one Derek had treated this way. He'd humiliated Donna in accounting during a meeting because she had a stutter when she got nervous. He forced Jeremy to come in the day after his dad died. He joked that grief was a luxury the top performers can't afford. He screamed at Jessica in the hallway so loud she cried in the bathroom for an hour. She transferred to a different department after that. No one said anything because Derek was careful. He never left email trails. He never hit anyone. It was always just low-grade, persistent cruelty. Small enough to be excused, big enough to leave scars. So I started documenting everything. Every offhand comment. Every abusive moment. I kept a journal with dates, times, and who else was around. I talked quietly with others in the office and found out they had stories too, lots of them. We weren't alone. Then I remembered something. About 6 months ago, HR had sent out an anonymous workplace climate survey. Derek had boasted that his team scored high on engagement. But I remembered filling it out honestly, writing that management was toxic and we felt unsafe. I reached out to the HR rep who sent it. Her name was Alyssa. She was new, maybe mid-30s, and unlike the others, she actually listened. We met in person. I brought a printout of everything I had. I showed her Derek's text message from that sick day. She was quiet while she read it. "This is serious," she said. Over the next week, she started asking others if they'd be willing to speak up. Some were scared, but a few were brave enough to confirm what I said. Then Alyssa asked me one question that changed everything. "Would you be willing to file a formal complaint and testify if it came to that?" I thought about my wife, my kids, the fear I felt every time Derek walked past. And I said, "Yes, I will." 2 weeks later, Derek was called into a video meeting with regional HR. I wasn't in the room, but I heard about it from someone who was. Midway through, his face went completely white. The director read off pieces of my report and quoted multiple employees backing it up. HR had quietly done a background check and found similar complaints from his old branch that had been buried. That same afternoon, he got an email that made his face drain of all color. Not just HR. It was a legal notice. Apparently, one of his victims from the Chicago office had gone to a lawyer after being diagnosed with an anxiety disorder caused by his abuse. That person had been quietly building a case for over a year. My evidence tipped the scale. By the next morning, Derek's desk was empty. No goodbye. No warning. Just gone. But that's not the end. Far from it. Because Derek didn't go quietly. And what he tried next nearly cost me everything. A few days after Derek vanished, there was this strange tension in the office. People were whispering. Everyone knew something had happened, but no one had the full story. HR wasn't saying anything officially, just that management changes were in process. That would have been the end of it, if not for the email. One morning, about a week after Derek was gone, I opened my inbox and saw a message from a Gmail account I didn't recognize. The subject line just said, "You think you've won?" My stomach dropped. I clicked on it. "Don't get too comfortable. You've made a serious mistake. You think you're the hero, but you're not. People like you don't survive in the real world. Enjoy your little moral victory while it lasts." No signature. No name. But I knew that tone. It was Derek. I reported it to HR right away. Alyssa escalated it to legal. They sent him a cease and desist. Told me to block the email, and I did. But then strange things started happening. My work badge stopped working one morning. Security had to let me in. IT said it was a glitch, but it happened again the next day. My email was suddenly suspended for 3 hours during payroll week, one of the most critical weeks of the month. The system flagged me for multiple login attempts that I hadn't made. When I finally got access again, some of my files were gone. Client reports I had spent hours on just vanished. That's when I knew Derek still had access. I sat down with Alyssa again. She brought in one of the IT guys, Aaron, someone I knew and trusted. He ran a deeper check and confirmed it. Someone had accessed my account remotely. And worse, they were using a VPN tied to a device still listed under Derek's name. They shut everything down. Changed the passwords. Locked down all remote access. But the damage was done. One of the deleted files was a compliance report due to the state office. It wasn't backed up. I had to scramble to rebuild it from scratch, and I barely made the submission deadline. My boss, a new temp manager filling in, said, "We can't afford another slip-up like this," like it was my fault. I couldn't prove to him that Derek had sabotaged me. But Alyssa knew. She promised to handle it internally. The next day she called me and said quietly, "You need to know something. There's an investigation into how he kept access. Someone in IT may have helped him." It felt like a punch in the gut. She wouldn't name names, but I had a hunch. There was this guy, Philip, who worked nights. He and Derek used to chat a lot. Always taking smoke breaks together. Philip had access to every system in the building. I started watching him more closely. Then one night, and I'll never forget this, I stayed late to finish a client file. Around 7:30 p.m., I saw Philip come into the office. He didn't notice me behind the partition. I watched him walk to my cubicle, sit at my desk, and plug something into the USB port. I stood up slowly and said, "Hey." He jumped like he'd seen a ghost. Yanked the USB out and tried to act casual. "Oh, hey man, your computer was acting weird earlier, just doing a quick check." "At 7:30 at night?" I asked. "Without telling me? Without a ticket?" He didn't answer. Just mumbled something and walked out fast. That night, I went home and told my wife everything. She was scared. Said I needed to report him. I did. The next morning, Alyssa met me at the door and pulled me into a conference room. "We're putting you on administrative leave," she said. I blinked. "What?" "Philip submitted a report saying you threatened him." My heart stopped. "That's a lie." "I believe you," she said, "but this is out of my hands." He filed a formal complaint. "We're required to investigate." I was stunned. They escorted me out. That was the lowest point. I went home feeling defeated, paranoid, like I was being swallowed whole. My kids asked why I was home early. I told them I had the day off. My wife saw right through me. 3 days into the leave, I got a call from an unknown number. I let it go to voicemail. It was Derek. "I told you people like you don't survive long. I got friends you don't. Keep pushing and you'll lose everything." That was it. I played that voicemail for Alyssa. She was furious. Said legal had enough now to bring it to the district level. They contacted the police. Because now it wasn't just a workplace issue, it was harassment, threats, sabotage. A whole damn mess. But the craziest part came a week later. A detective called and asked me to come down to the station. When I arrived, they showed me security footage from a local co-working space where Derek had been using a rented office. On the footage, Derek and Philip, meeting face to face, passing a flash drive. Philip had given Derek access to company systems after his firing. For money. But here's where it gets wild. That flash drive? It had client data, names, policies, social security numbers. Derek was planning to sell it. Suddenly, it wasn't just internal HR drama, it was federal. The moment the detective said federal, I felt the blood leave my face. Are you saying he stole identities? I asked. The detective, a tall guy named Ramirez, nodded slowly. Looks that way. It's early, but we're working with the FBI now. He had information that never should have left your company. I sat back in the plastic chair, stunned. And Philip helped him? We're building the case, he said. But we've got surveillance, financial records, messages, and now your statement. It's more than enough to move forward. By the end of that week, Philip was arrested at his apartment. They found more flash drives in his desk drawer. One of them had my name tagged on a folder. I don't know what was in it, I didn't want to, but I was told it had falsified logs that made it look like I'd accessed files I never touched. They were trying to pin the leak on me. That was Derek's real endgame. Get me fired. Maybe even arrested. Destroy me completely. The fallout spread fast. A company-wide investigation was opened. My admin leave was lifted the same day Philip was arrested. I came back to work, but it didn't feel like a win. People stared when I walked through the halls. Some whispered. Some clapped me on the back and said, "Glad you're back." But most were just quiet. Like they didn't know what to believe. But the worst part, the part that still keeps me up sometimes, was what it did to my family. The stress nearly broke my wife. I was up at night pacing. She was trying to hold everything together with the kids, the bills, her own job. I'd wake up at 3 a.m. and find her sitting at the kitchen table staring at nothing. "You think it's over?" she asked one night. "I don't know," I said. "I want to say yes, but I honestly don't know." That same week, I was called into a conference room. Alyssa was there. So was the company's legal counsel. "We need to prepare you," Alyssa said. "There's going to be press coverage." I blinked. Press. This case involves identity theft, system breaches, and criminal collusion. The company's trying to contain it, but once the court filings are public, reporters will start digging. I suddenly felt sick. This wasn't what I wanted, I said. I just wanted him gone. "I know," Alyssa said. But Derek didn't stop when he got fired. He kept pushing and he pulled Philip down with him. Now he's facing multiple charges. You're part of the case whether you like it or not. It didn't take long. 2 weeks later, I saw my name in a local news article. Former manager at insurance firm accused of data theft, harassment, and threats. Internal whistleblower at center of investigation. They didn't use my full name, but people figured it out. I got texts from old high school classmates, my brother in Ohio, even a former coworker from my first job at the gas station. "Is this about you?" At work, things got weird. Some people treated me like a hero. Others acted like I was radioactive. And then the worst twist came. One day after lunch, I got a call from the school counselor. My youngest daughter, Lucy, had broken down crying in class. When I picked her up, she wouldn't stop shaking. She'd heard some kids say her daddy was in trouble with the police. I sat her down that night and tried to explain in the gentlest way possible. "Sweetheart, I did the right thing. Someone was doing something very bad and I told the truth. I didn't get in trouble, I helped stop someone who was hurting others." She nodded. But I could tell it didn't fix it. Kids don't care about the right thing. They care about being safe, normal, not whispered about at school. I went outside that night, stood on the back porch and just stared up at the sky. I felt hollow. Like I'd done everything right and still lost something precious. That's when I made a decision. If Derek wanted to destroy me, really, truly destroy me, then I had no choice but to finish what I started. I couldn't stop at reporting him. I had to make sure he could never do this again to anyone. So I did something that took everything in me. I contacted the former coworker from Derek's last branch in Chicago. The one who had quietly filed a legal complaint about emotional distress. Her name was Rosa. I found her email from the old HR communication chain and reached out. She responded 2 days later. At first she was cautious. Told me she didn't want to get involved. Said it had nearly broken her the first time. I told her what Derek had done to me. I sent her the voicemail. I sent her the article. I told her about Philip. I told her about Lucy. She wrote back a short message, "Let's finish him." Over the next 2 months, I helped Rosa and 3 other former employees gather everything they had. Emails, Slack messages, personal journals. Even a therapist's report dated back to 2019, detailing the psychological harm from Derek's campaign of humiliation. They filed a joint lawsuit. Civil, not criminal. Emotional damage, lost income, hostile workplace. But more importantly, they named the company as co-defendant for knowingly protecting Derek for years. And I agreed to testify. Testifying in court wasn't what I expected. It wasn't like TV, no shouting, no dramatic speeches. Just quiet, uncomfortable truth. Sitting on a wooden chair under fluorescent lights, answering question after question while strangers scribbled notes and looked bored. But I told the truth. I told them about the day I came in sick and was humiliated. I told them about the messages, the sabotage, the threats, and how he tried to ruin me. I told them about Lucy crying in school and my wife staying up at night too scared to sleep. I didn't dress it up. I didn't try to make myself look brave. I just laid it out, simple and raw. I wasn't the only one. Rosa testified. So did 2 others from Chicago. Both men, both former team leads like I had been. They described how Derek played people against each other, how he manipulated numbers to make himself look good, how he turned work into something that felt like survival. When the verdict came, it was quiet. The court ruled in favor of the plaintiffs, Rosa and the others, and found the company partially liable for ignoring repeated red flags. The settlement was sealed, but I heard it was in the high 6 figures. Derek was found guilty of multiple counts of digital fraud, workplace harassment, and conspiracy. He was sentenced to 4 years in federal prison. He didn't cry or beg. He just stared ahead, that same smug look wiped off his face for good. But the real punishment came later. Word got out, not just local news but bigger outlets picked it up. The Indianapolis Star, Business Insider, even a blurb in Forbes. The company scrambled to protect itself, releasing statements about improving workplace accountability and restructuring leadership. But it was too late. Clients left. Shareholders pulled out. And within 8 months, the branch I worked at, my branch, shut down. They gave us 3 weeks notice and 2 months severance. That was it. I remember walking through the office on the last day, all the cubicles half empty, posters pulled from the walls, chairs stacked in corners. 9 years of my life. Gone. I wasn't even mad. Just tired. But something strange happened after that. Other companies started reaching out, not to offer jobs but to ask if I'd consult on workplace ethics training. Apparently, people saw me as the guy who took down Derek. One small HR tech firm offered me a 6-month contract to help rewrite their harassment reporting policy. I took it. Felt good. Like maybe I could turn the worst thing that ever happened to me into something useful. But not everything got fixed. My wife and I had a rough stretch. For a while, she pulled back emotionally. Said she couldn't go through something like that again. There were nights she slept in the guest room. Said she needed space. One night she told me, "You did the right thing. I just wish it hadn't cost us so much." I didn't know what to say. She wasn't wrong. We went to counseling. Slowly things got better. Not perfect but better. Lucy took longer. Even now, 2 years later, she still gets nervous when she hears my phone ring late at night. She once asked me if the bad man would come back. She's only 9 but I can see it, that early crack of fear, and it kills me. I try to explain it in simple ways. Remember how we told the truth about the mean kid at school? And how even though it was hard, it helped keep others safe. She nods. Well, sometimes grown-ups have to do that too. And it's scary and it hurts, but it's still the right thing. She hugs me tighter when I say it. And I hope that means she believes me. As for Philip, he got a plea deal. 2 years probation and mandatory restitution. I heard he lost everything. Job, apartment, even his fiancée. She left him after reading the court documents. Derek is still in prison. I check once in a while on the federal inmate locator. He's in a low-security facility in Kentucky. No parole until 2028. But here's the last twist. About 6 months ago, I got an envelope in the mail. No return address. Inside was a handwritten note. "You think you ruined me. You didn't. I'll be back. People like you will always be prey." There was no signature. But I didn't need one. I showed it to the police. They documented it, but said there wasn't much they could do unless he contacted me again. I put the letter in a drawer and locked it. That night, I walked into my daughter's room and watched her sleep. I looked at my wife, reading a book in bed. I thought about everything we'd lost, but also what we still had. I'm not scared of Derek anymore. I faced him. I exposed him. I watched everything he built fall apart piece by piece. He can write all the letters he wants from his cell. But I'm still here. And now everyone knows what he really is. That's enough for me.